Yeah. Should be good.
Thank you. I'll call to order the capital outlay meeting for Tuesday, April 4th, 2023 at 9:00 a.m. This meeting is being recorded. The listing of the matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Since this is a Zoom meeting, I will have the capital outlay committee announce themselves. Paul, let's go ahead and start with you.
Good morning. Paul Reynolds.
Thank you.
Eliza Kuchar.
Brenda Herbeck.
Robert Renda.
Serena Emerald.
Mike Mullen.
Thank you. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, so the primary purpose for today's meeting is to start scoring the FY24 capital requests. We're going to focus on the new ones, those that were submitted in FY23. We will consider as well. Thank you. And we will. For today's purposes, it's primarily to go ahead and get these scored. Also to get, we do have quite a few representatives here. And so we might take things a little bit out of order so we can kick these guys loose. And so with that being said, what I'd like to do first is, I believe, let's talk about the request from the school district. Since Mr. Baxter is here, and I believe that is the only request. Okay, so we have a request.
We don't have.
It would be in the new packet, Brenda.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to.
Okay, so find it here pretty easily. It's a request, I believe it's for 100,000 even.
Yep.
Yes, and it's for security related matters, so cameras, door access control, things of that nature for the Dayton Middle School and Dayton Elementary School. Obviously it is for, here we go, to improve, it's been tagged as being an improvement for procedures and records, as well as increased safety. Rob, help me out. Did we originally think about doing this a few years back?
Capital committee.
Yeah.
But we had something that I know in the last year or so, it has come up, and certainly this particular school year, the administration has made it one of its top priorities to update security, not just in terms of technology, but also in terms of processes and signage and the way we communicate with emergency responders. So this is just one more part of that program.
Okay. Any questions from any of the committee members for Mr. Baxter?
I've got a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Go ahead, Paul.
So now, can we talk about the access controls and what that means in particular? Like I know I've got a child in the elementary school, and like I know that the door has the buzzer and you know, to be let in and things of that nature. Could you talk a little bit about what access controls means in a practical sense?
Yeah, sure. So if you go around the perimeter of a building, there's obviously multiple doors, and in order to control who's inside the building, we want to do two things. One is to funnel, focus all guests to come through the main entrance where we can, buzz them in, we can identify them, verify their intent, that sort of thing. And the other is to what I'll say lock or prevent unauthorized guests from using any of the other doors. It's not very easy to do with a building that's open to the public like that, and when we have so many staff members and students inside. So what I'm just gonna take you through it hypothetically, right? So at one extreme, you would lock all of the doors and only have one door on theoretically. Right? That doesn't work for a number of reasons, but if you did that, what would happen is, and what does happen, is that staff who want to leave the building and not go through the main door can't get back in through the doors, all of the other doors around the perimeter of the building. And so we're people, we develop and we adapt. And so what we do is we chop the door open, or we ask somebody else to hold the door open, or we come up with some other way to defeat the security. So the solution is to allow the door to be selectively locked. In other words, control who can use the door, who cannot use the door, access control. And the way we do that is, we have an electronic lock or an electromagnetic lock on the door. And it will allow a teacher, for instance, or a technician to, for instance, leave through the side door, go to a maintenance barn, go to the neighbor school, go from the middle school to the elementary school, and come back in the same door, but allow them to buzz themselves in, because they don't have to go through the main door. But to allow anybody who's not part of our community, in other words, not faculty or staff or whatever, that would funnel them, focus them to go through the main door where they would have to be buzzed in. So that's primarily what we're talking about, is just IDs and scanners on the doors, so that people who are, say, trusted, they're our employees, whatever, can use any door that they want, or the doors that we were authorized. And then for folks who are not part of our, what I'll say, trusted community, they don't have a badge ID, they have to go through the main door. And then there's one other level. There are some doors that you don't want anybody to use. For instance, that if it's only for like a facilities, custodial access to the outside or whatever, to a mechanical room or whatnot. So those would not have a buzzer. Those would just have a key lock or some such thing. So it would be restricted, and just unauthorized people would not have access to those spaces. So in general, that's what we're looking at for access control.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. One thing I am curious about is if the problem of staff, jeopardizing safety by propping the doors open could be addressed in other ways that doesn't involve a significant capital expense. If that's kind of the primary driver, that to me feels like it could potentially be corrected in other ways. So does that really, I'm just thinking out loud here.
Well, I understand your question, and we asked ourselves the same question, and I'll say, I'll add a couple different things. First is, this is not unique to Diane or DR, and it's a problem that school districts all over the place struggle with. We have been challenging ourselves to come up with other ways to accomplish this, and we really haven't come up with a good one. The short of adding operating expense, which would be somebody to watch the doors or whatever. So this is an upfront expense, correct? But it's also once it's in place, it's got a minimal impact on our operating budget, and we feel it's probably in the long run is the most economical way to proceed.
Chief Carlin, could you weigh in on this, please?
I can. So, Paul, the main driver here going into the school year was safety of the schools. And what we recognize is that single point access is the most important thing to really, to start. You have to have single point access, you have people come in one door. So as far as the property, that is something that since the beginning of the school year, I have our patrol officers going to every school every day and doing a survey. So I was actually just texting with my SROs to provide me a spreadsheet of that. Every day that there is something, it gets reported to the SROs and it gets reported to the principals. So we can have an idea, but you know, unfortunately, like Mr. Baxter says, it is an issue. I mean, it's not a responsible one, but it does happen. But the biggest driver here is the single point access and understanding who's in, who's not, and trying to mitigate any sort of infiltration with any of the doors.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, thank you very much, Chief. That does make plenty of sense. That's just my thought is that, you know, if this is more of a human error. Now, Mr. Baxter, do we happen to know what is the current, I would imagine that must be against the, the personnel policy to be propping doors open. What is the current penalty for that, that makes it such a common spread practice?
I understand where you're going, Mr. Reynolds. It is very difficult to discipline folks for leaving unattended doors open. And we walk the buildings, as Chief Cronin mentioned, but we also, the building administration also walks the building, but it's you know, there's really no good way to identify, you know, who's propped it open and to change the behavior and without, I don't know how you do it. We're looking, you know, we've offered training, we train folks, we emphasize the importance of keeping the building secure, and we you know, over the last year or so, we've done quite a bit of what I'll say education to our faculty and staff. But there are just some behaviors that are tough to change, and it doesn't even have to be a regular behavior. You could have somebody who's, you know, ticking the box every day for 150 days, and on 151st says, you know what, I'm gonna run out for, I'm making this up, but I'm gonna run out to, you know, wherever, and it's a rush or it's raining out, and I'm just gonna step outside and leave it, and then that door is open, and you know it's irregular. How do we see that happen? You know, I understand. I very much understand your approach, and you're asking a good question as to, hey, can we address this with disciplinary action? And I would strongly disagree that we could be successful with that. We've tried. It's not a feasible approach to achieve the level of security and, as Chief Cronin said, single point of access that we're trying to achieve.
So just a follow-up question, the challenge, what happened, I believe in January with, I believe DMAS with the flooding. Would this project address being able to close up access at different parts of buildings when they're not in use?
There'd be two elements I think would have helped us. The first is we would have had cameras inside the building, so we would have seen who went into the room. It would be very easy. It would have been very easy then to allow the police department to say, hey, you know, 7:05, so and so went into this room and whatever. Okay, that would have made all of the difference. And internally, it probably the external access control wouldn't have helped because the building was open for
A game or something.
but internally it would have helped because we would have been able to, because there were other occupants in different times in in the building, different other activities, and it would have helped if we had had, say, some access control on the inside of the building.
Mhm.
If I may. When we get back to Mr. Reynolds' question about discipline for opening doors where we shouldn't be. It's not only faculty and staff that might do that, but when someone's in a building, it could be anyone that props a door open or goes out that door, and could be a student at some point. We really can't control every single person in that building at all times. So this seems like the logical way to go.
I'm just gonna make a general comment. I don't wanna offend anyone by making this comment. But these requests that have been submitted to us are not off the cuff requests. And I'm not just talking about the one from the school district. You know, obviously we have Chief Cronin and Chief McGee here. We have Mr. Ferry here with the as the highway superintendent, and we're talking millions of dollars of requests. And obviously this town, given where we are with the upcoming school assessments, we're in a I won't say a financial crisis. So these requests have not been submitted lightly. And these people who are here presenting these requests, this is their job. They are professionals at this. My hope is that this committee recognizes that and is able to value the request as a necessity for the town. Whether or not we can actually fund it or not, and whether or not we actually recommend funding that, is the purpose of this committee, not necessarily to understand what it is going to be used for and why. We should understand what the options are, what the alternatives are, and I like those kinds of questions. But the fact that we have the request in front of us, I think, speaks volumes to these people who are here before us doing their jobs. And I just wanted to get that out there in the open. So I don't mean to offend anyone, and if I did, I apologize, but thank you. So any other questions, Mr. Reynolds?
No, thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay. Do we want to actually execute the scoring exercise? I believe so.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, so with this, let's go ahead. Priority classification, mandatory maintenance improves efficiency, or a new service. I think I put this in the maintenance bucket. Anybody?
Yeah, maintenance on improved efficiency.
Yeah.
Let's say that.
Okay. Paul, as a committee member, you're gonna need to be vocal here because we can't see you.
Sure, I agreed.
Okay, so we're gonna improve efficiency. Priority ranking, very high, medium, low.
I'd say very high based on the needs we're trying to address and what it would actually achieve. And
Just for argument's sake, Ms. Batcher, how much was the cleanup for due to the flooding in January?
Well, you mean for our total insurance claim or just for the, just?
What are costs, what are total costs for, whether deductible plus anything?
Oh, it was almost $100,000.
Okay, so if we had this in place and we were able to identify, we possibly could have recouped some of those losses by Doing a civil. Okay,
Yeah, oh, I see where you're going, yeah, yeah.
okay, so we're paid for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Not to mention the cost of our police resources to investigate this. Okay, what's the expected life of this system?
So assuming that we use the system that we have in place at the high school, the cameras have a 10-year warranty, and they last beyond that. The access controls that we have there, based on our prior experience, have probably close to a 20-year life. They're no moving parts. You know, there's regular, I don't want to say that there's regular maintenance or whatever, but it's just like part of the electrical system.
Right, okay, thank you. With that information, where do we think we go with 2, 10 to 19 years?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree.
All right,
Agreed.
Priority.
I think so agreed. That was very, very.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And on projected useful life, we're at 10 to 19.
Yes.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
The effect on operating and maintenance costs. I think our costs remain unchanged on this, really.
I agree.
And the effect on town's revenues, increase revenues unchanged or decreases unchanged.
Yeah.
All right, availability of non-free cash, raise and appropriate, so on and so forth.
I'd say we do have the ability to use non-free cash at this point.
Right. Okay. So, yes, and would this address a significant public safety concern?
Yes.
Yes.
I think the answer is yes. Okay. Ms. Factor, you are free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Evan.
Okay. The two chiefs that were present will be released.
Yeah, actually, we love this.
Yeah, okay, let's we're gonna take some.
It's fine. I'm enjoying this, Rob, so it's a nice little rest.
We did it, man.
Told you he'd get you back.
Gotta find them. It's still not good. Okay, so this is the. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we have a request from the sewer department. It is for $509,000. This is scheduled replacement because the equipment is obsolete and worn out. Okay, and this is for the power plant pump station. There's a letter attached in the packet. This is. Yeah. For the age, we're at 20+ years in terms of age on this. They have a nice quote in here. Their estimate of the costs. I'm assuming we're expecting to get 20 years out of this as well. We're
Hopefully,
okay.
there's not a lot of expansion. Probably gonna end up wearing, but they've been, the pumps have been replaced. And, see. And he has gone on.
Mm.
Okay. Okay. And the downside to this, tell us worst case scenario, if the pump goes and we don't have any plan in place.
So if I may, I'm on the school commission also.
Sure thing.
So,
I'm looking at you then.
so that pump station, if you don't know, receives a gravity feed from Center Street, only to the police stations, all in houses and school. Go down to there, no, the school pumps up to the intersection, but all the residents, all the way down to the police station, including the police station, go to that pump station. The pump station was designed and built, then turned over to the town, so it wasn't built to our specs. It has a small force main, what the pump has to work high to, and it causes the cavity also, especially when the power plant is under use, because they're under high flow water at that point. So that's why there's a lot of stress on the pumps. So this video here is on the redesign of it. To answer your question about the longevity, we're hoping to get that longevity, but we need to upgrade it. So we don't have the downtime that would affect the power plant and our residents in that stretch of the road.
So if this pump went out tomorrow, though, we'd have no system in place.
So what happens, there's actually two pumps there.
Okay,
What happens if that happens, we would have to call pump truck and continually pump and dispose like soils and
Yeah.
That's what would have to happen until the pump is repaired. Historically, pumps like that do fail, take up to 6 months to come in, including parts. So it's not something to.
that's what I want to do. That's the kind of information I wanted to get.
Want to hire that from.
Yes, yes. Okay.
What would happen if, like, how it was activated during such an event that we were pumping it out?
Pumping a lot more, there'll be tractor trailers instead of those. Yeah,
That's significant.
I don't have the gallons, I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared for that.
Oh,
Okay. All right, any other questions on this? All right, let's go to the scoring. So this is for $509,000. Do we need to, is there a contingency built into this?
yes.
Yes, okay,
Numbers with my engineer.
okay. Pretty significant. 35%. Like that.
It's after COVID stuff, it's not nice.
All right. Okay.
We can get the Main Street.
The notes.
Yeah.
You won't last just a minute. Okay, so let's go through the scoring. So priority classifications, I think this falls either under maintenance or improve efficiency. I think it's more maintenance, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Paul, do you agree? Maintenance?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, priority ranking,
I think it's very high.
Yeah.
I do too.
I agree.
all right. Useful life, 20 years or more, I think is what our expectation is here.
Great.
Effect on operating and maintenance costs.
It'll read-
I think we might actually reduce some costs, right? We're not gonna have as many repairs, so this will be new. And these should be more efficient equipment we have in place. So it's not gonna be a lot, but it is gonna be a reduction in costs. And then the effect on the town's revenues. unchanged, right?
With this one, I almost wish that there was an in-between option, right? Because this is at Dayton Power, correct?
Yes,
Yeah, so they are, I believe, our largest or second largest taxpayer. They pay around $700,000 annually.
Mhm.
And so, well, I guess it would technically be unchanged. This does protect a major revenue stream for us. So I know it doesn't increase revenue, but I almost wish there was an in-between option because I feel that it does more than revenue unchanged by protecting, one of our most valuable taxpayers. So I guess I would
Yeah.
I would reluctantly say 5, but I wish that I could give it more, but I guess I would reluctantly say revenue's unchanged.
Yeah, Paul, were you here for last year's scoring?
I believe some of it, right? I think I
Yeah.
came in kind of right in the middle. It was right about a year ago. It was just about a year ago.
Yeah, you'll find that this cumulative score is gonna be one of the higher ones anyway, so. Just by nature of the reduction in costs and the amount of number of useful lives, number of years of useful life, so. And then, so availability of funds. So in the request, it's suggesting we use ARPA.
$100,000 from sewer capital.
So is the request truly then for 409 or for 509? It's for 409, right?
Well, the capital project cost is the 509.
Right.
But,
Two different circles.
yeah,
Yeah, but the 100,000 is coming from the sewer fund, which
It's already in everything.
which is already, they already have that. So for the, when I say us, I don't know. For the town, for the taxpayer base, we have to figure out how we're gonna pay the 409. The remaining 409,
Yeah, which is an offer.
which we think we're gonna put it through ARPA.
yes,
That's the target right now.
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
So that would be a yes.
Yeah. And would address significant public safety concern.
I would say no. Like, I think we want to be cautious in terms of using that.
The safety,
Yeah,
we said that often.
It's just significant. There are workarounds, there are. It's
Yeah.
expensive, you're bringing,
Yeah.
company to come pump, but,
Yeah, it's not a.
okay.
And this upgrade is not, because there's some other work for possible expansion, that's probably not gonna happen near future, but this upgrade would not accommodate that. That possible expansion would have to come from Center Street south, we wouldn't go to that station. The station would still be met. Right.
Okay. All right.
Good job.
Thanks, Diane.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for us. Let's see. Somebody got some new from since the last.
Yes, there is a
So I think-
$30,000 request to replace the CPR
Oh, that's right.
equipment.
That's right. There it is. Found it. Years back from the last meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is $34,000 request. By the fire department, it is to replace obsolete equipment, worn out equipment. It's a continuation of the current project and it is meant to increase safety. What current project is?
So this is Lucas, compression machine that we have in both ambulances.
Yep.
We'll replace both the units in both ambulances with a trade-in value. They're gonna get us for $5,000 per unit. So what's happening is that they have a lifespan of approximately 10 years. We've gone beyond that. They're not making the parts to replace the equipment anymore, the plungers, the actual internal components of the machine. So it was suggested, obviously, to replace the equipment, because if it fails, you can't fix it.
Yeah. So, but you check the box for continuation of a current project. What is that current project? Like for example, for Tom, like Main Street or something that's taking him forever to do. 3 years. So it's over. So it's over. So it's over 3 years. So I want to know, like, what's the big overall project that this kind of falls under, the umbrella does that fall under?
I guess there really isn't one.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure that, because usually when you say continuation of a project like Tom's is like, you know, we got to do this and then this and then this and this, and it takes 3 years. And so for this, I want to make sure that, you know, if you're talking about replacing, if the overall project is an equipment replacement program that you have in place, and this is, you know, phase 1, and then there's a phase 2 that we're going to see next year in phase 3. That's what I would call a project. Okay.
No.
Okay. All right. Really what I'm getting at is I want to make sure that we don't have costs next year to do something similar and cost the year after. Okay. Any other questions for the chief on this one?
No, I don't have any questions. Just speaking up because I'm
Yeah.
not on camera.
Thanks, Paul. Any questions? Let's go ahead to the ranking. Priority classification. Maintenance,
Agreed.
right? Agreed, okay. Priority ranking,
I'd say very high.
you would disagree with the very high there?
I guess it's very high.
Okay, expected useful life. Are we looking at another 10 years?
Another 10 years.
Okay. So we got a 10 years. And then we,
Change.
yeah, cost, operating and maintenance costs are unchanged, right? So,
Chief, have you had to have the current setup serviced at all? Have there been any maintenance or service expenses around the current system?
The current system maintained annually. So we have a service contract in place for this to be maintained annually, and that is incurred in my budget.
right. And so that service contract, we would expect to increase due to the new equipment.
No.
Okay. So I think we got costs unchanged there then, right? And then effect on the town's revenue, that's unchanged as well. Anyone disagree?
Nope.
All right, proposed funding for this is through the ambulance fund. I don't know the balance on the ambulance fund. Does anyone know that number roughly? Do you know the number of what we had?
It was for something, I thought the last time we asked, like
Okay.
450 and something.
Yeah, like we do have with the existing retained revenues to do this and still looking to get through our other. So yeah, to do this, have the operating funds of 380 come out of it and take care of the ambulance as well. So we do have the ability to do all that.
Okay. All right, and would address a significant public safety concern.
I would say so.
It's
Significant.
They work right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
The word significance.
Yeah, I'm almost like thinking about this question as in the future, and maybe next year we consider using a high, medium, low.
Yeah.
Because to me, and a high, medium, low and none, right?
so significant.
Because I think this one's
Yeah,
probably
we have
falls
those
into the
two.
medium range.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
not like
fair.
high, but the thing that this has for it is that it's coming out of the ambulance. fund.
Yep.
So, so are we in agreement that this is
Yeah.
a no?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Chief, I believe that's it for you.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. You have, yeah, I saw, Mr. O'Connor, thank you for joining us. Gentlemen, you guys want to get the library? Thank you, appreciate it. I know you're part of that too. Gotta be. Great. All right, so we have, I believe, a couple of
Yep.
requests out here. One is for the building itself in all finishing, I think it's primarily the finishing work to it, and then the second request is for furnishing. So let's address, let me see if I can put it.
So one of the things I just want to mention for the committee's application, and I thought, I sent out an updated proposed budget, for the interior rehab that, that brings the non-CPC request down from 473,000 to $404,000.
Okay.
And one of the things that made that work, the reduction from the 473 to 404, is the application of a $26,660 grant, that the library director obtained. That is the, it's a $26,000 grant from the Mass Cultural Council that helped to offset that cost, along with being able to do more of the project in-house. And also there was a savings from working with the fire chief, the fire alarm panel that's on currently in the foyer. We thought we'd have to replace and move that to a different part of the building, but we can move that to the other side of the wall, and that's a $25,000 savings there.
Okay. So the 404,000 is for the actual building improvements. Okay, separate from a request for furnishing any equipment. Any questions on this? There's a pretty detailed quote in here of all the work that needs to get done.
And then if I could just add, like in the capital spreadsheet, there's a total cost of $727,000, which that also includes the CPC request as well. So that's a $323,000 request that combined with the 403 makes and adds up to the 727.
Right. Okay. Again, this project is going to address the safety of the building. It's going to allow for the expansion of our library services and program offerings. Obviously, the continuation of a current project. And we knew the building need to be rehabbed to begin with, so we need, replacing the old equipment that was in there. I mean, in some cases, just removing the equipment, right? The old kitchen that was in there and that things of that nature. Okay.
I believe also that the new location is necessary as well for our certification, which may
Mhm.
bolster,
Yeah.
may bolster, may be a matter for consideration as well.
Yes, thank you, Paul, for bringing that up. Certification is obviously, a priority. Not only for our library trustees and constituents there, but I think the town showed its belief in the library by, a couple of years ago, approving the modular equipment so that we could maintain our certification. And obviously this new building positions us for having a building that is current, useful, safe for all of our taxpayers. So, any questions for Mr. O'Connor or and I see Jocelyn has joined us as well. Or for Jocelyn. Yeah. Okay, with that being said, let's run through the ranking here. So priority classification.
I think it's mandatory at this
Yep.
point.
We do have accessibility, requirements that are mandatory.
And also, I would say that the majority of the town certainly would view having an accredited library that has certification as being mandatory as well.
All right, I think we're all in agreement there. Priority rankings.
I think it's very high.
Anybody see anything different than very high?
Very high.
No,
No,
A project's expected useful life. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Smith Memorial Hall's got 100 years so far. I think it's got at least 20 more. I think.
Okay, our effect on operating and maintenance costs. This one would be hard for us to judge, right?
Yeah.
I would say costs and change because there will be increased costs, but they'll also be offset by the $20,000, for example, we're gonna save by not funding a modular.
Right.
Plus, it should be more efficient than what the old building used to be too.
right.
Yes, absolutely. I believe the new HVAC system, I believe, is going to
Oh.
be fairly efficient as well, as
Might
opposed to, I can't imagine what it, what a task it is to heat that little shack that they're in now.
You don't
Right.
wanna know.
Yeah.
Right.
I would imagine our maintenance costs would be significantly reduced for the first 10 to 15 years since we've just rehabbed the entire building. So I think, I think in the long run, it nets to a reduced costs. I mean, I don't have any problem grading it out as cost unchanged, just to kind of give it a neutral feel. Since there
I think
are a
that's a
lot
good
of
idea.
unknowns. Unchanged.
Unchanged.
All right, we'll do it as unchanged. And then effect on our town's revenues. Well,
That's unchanged.
I would say unchanged as well.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully you get more patrons.
Right, that's what I was thinking. I would say at least unchanged, but the new location may open up some opportunities at future options, but
Yep.
I don't want to engage in wishful thinking either. So I guess unchanged makes sense.
But I think, Ron and Jocelyn, I mean, the only revenue that is being generated by the library is for, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just for late fees and things of that
Yeah, it's
nature,
not-
correct? It's not meant to be a revenue generator.
Yep.
Right.
That's correct. We take in income from copying, but that covers the cost of the toner for the printers. And you're right, we also do fines.
Mr. Oh,
Good.
sorry.
Revolving.
Mr. O'Connor, could I also please ask, I know that there are sometimes like Reiki workshops and I know my kids went to a build event at Old Town Hall that was held through the library the other day. And I think that a couple of those sometimes, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they may have nominal fees sometimes. Do those, are those sources of revenue at all?
I'll let Jocelyn answer that if she can, because I'm not familiar with. Some of these are funded. Some of these programs are funded by the Cultural Council, the Massachusetts, the Dayton Cultural Council. Go ahead, Jocelyn.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm just curious if there's like any classes or like I know we've done Reiki. I believe that there's been some other events. I don't know, do any of those vendors or anything, do they ever pay a nominal fee or anything like that? I'm just thinking, if it does, if there is revenue generation, I think that it should at least be noted.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah, I
Jocelyn.
think, yeah,
Go ahead.
I mean, I think what I'm hearing is that it's nominal and we don't
Yeah.
expect
Yeah,
any fees that we're collecting is gonna,
right.
is gonna be, we're not gonna be collecting any new additional revenue from this.
Fair, fair.
So our revenue would remain unchanged, I believe.
All right.
All right, anyone disagree? All right, so
No, I agree.
thank you. Availability of non-free quick cash raiser. So what are we thinking for a funding source for this? I think we have a lot of options here. Is ARPA available for any ARPA funds? Like even if we grab, 20,000 from ARPA, I mean, I'm just throwing things out.
Yeah.
Not as of yet, the opera that we've used was completely discretionary funds.
Yeah.
With our remaining funds, unfortunately, like at least until the federal government changes a rule that everyone's waiting for called the ARPA Flex rule, which who knows where that is gonna come down. But I don't think we can utilize ARPA anymore, but we do have the ability, we have already applied for grants, and a $200,000 HVAC grant to help fund this. We do have the ability to leverage CPC as well, so I think we can say yes to that
Okay.
answer because.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And then, this would address a significant public safety concern. I'd say no, and again, this is where I think if we went high to none,
Yeah,
this might be a low because, we don't have to deal with the modular anymore. We don't have to deal with the downstairs town hall and the foot traffic
Yep.
and all of that. So, but yeah, so no. Okay. And then the second request is for $175,000, I believe is the total figure.
yes.
Yep.
And this is for the furniture, fixtures and equipment necessary to to accommodate all the patrons and the books and equipment that is needed to run the library.
Mhm.
Any questions on that?
I have I suppose a question. One thing just to raise as an idea, I see where availability of non-free cash, raise and appropriate, dedicated CPA, state fund, state and or federal grant money. This wouldn't fit into any of those categories, but I am willing to bet that there would be a significant interest among members of the community to do some kind of like crowdsourcing fundraising for the FFE. So I could see there being some interest, selling bricks, like your name engraved on a brick or something like that.
Right.
So I definitely think that there are options. But I know it doesn't specifically fit into that. I don't want to be speculative, but I also, I do think that it's a reality that there are other alternative community sourced funds that are gonna want to be contributed to this, which I think could be, could bolster. That it just, it doesn't quite fit on that line as a yes, but, I feel like it's almost close, you know what I mean?
Right. Mr. O'Connor, do you know if the trustees have any type of planned fundraising of this kind of nature, or would they entertain it?
Yeah, actually, the library building committee, which I co-chair, met last week and started a conversation about that kind of funding, and we'll be having a meeting coming up this month to talk about it, but it's certainly open to those kinds of things and exploring those options. We have a history 15 years ago of doing fundraising of that type, and certainly we'll be revisiting that.
Thank you. So here again, the request is for 175,000. Anything we can do to raise funds to offset that number, but I think when we consider this request, it is for that amount. Now the question becomes, so we have on here FY 2024, FY 2025. I believe I heard that the expectation is that the building will be ready next late fall.
No, the end of calendar year 2024.
The end of calendar year 2024, which puts us into FY 25.
Yes.
So this is a consideration for us to go ahead and score it. But if the building is not going to be ready until FY 25, we don't have to actually come up with the funding source today. And that would allow our library board of trustees to hopefully come up with some fundraising opportunities. For me personally, I'm a big supporter of the library. And I would love to see
What we can.
what we can raise
Yeah.
to offset this. So let's go ahead and score this. I think we all know that we need, it's great to have a building, but
We need- Yeah, exactly.
So let's go ahead and give this its scoring. So we have, again, priority classification. I would consider this mandatory, right?
Yep.
Thank you. Paul, agree?
Agreed.
Okay. And then we have.
It'd be a shame to fund an empty building.
Right. And then the priority ranking, I think it falls in line with the building improvements itself, so very high. Anyone disagree? Okay, expected useful life.
20 years or more.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on the fence about this one because I think, like, when you're talking about, I think, shelving and things of that nature, you would expect 20 years or more. When you start talking about desks and technology, well, technology is probably, that's not going to be fall under furnishing. I think more like chairs. Have, depending on the use, have a 10-second break, things of that nature.
Section, yeah.
So I'm kind of leaning in the 10 to 19 years, knowing that some equipment is going to last well beyond it. Some of it's going to last
Makes
below
sense.
it.
Yep.
So,
That's fair.
all right. And then we have our effect on operating and maintenance costs. I think unchanged, right? And then on town revenue, again, same thing. Unchanged. And then availability. So in this case, I don't think we need to answer our how are we going to fund it right now? Just because we know that this is for an FY 25 request. And then would it address significant public safety concern? I think the answer is no there, right? Okay. Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Thank you, Jocelyn. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you for coming.
All right. Ready, Chief?
I am ready.
Okay, so. Yes. Yes, and one new one, I think, from what was originally submitted.
Sure.
Two? What's the second one?
Irrigation.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
With temperature, that's one.
okay.
Want to see?
The first two are around the radios, some are handheld and some are portables for the cruisers. Yeah, yeah.
So you don't have the temporary.
Yeah, so this is. I think what we should do with this. Front and center, okay, I think what we should do is just put a program in place around all communications, not try to break it out between what's for the cruiser, what's for the, and that way we're just gonna be. We'll be funding a single warrant article. I like the plan. It's very similar to what we're doing with cruisers, right? We're just gonna kind of rotate things in. I'm assuming that at the end of 3 years, the cruiser piece of this is gonna fall off. Because we get new equipment with every new cruiser we get.
You got it.
Okay. Am I correct in that the cruiser part is gonna fall off in 3 years?
It will, because we're speccing out everything with the new technology.
Okay.
So the ones that are highlighted here is to bring the other ones up to speed.
Okay. And so how many cruisers does that? That says one radio to be purchased per year. So we only have 3 cruisers that are out of date.
By that time, we're gonna have probably 2 or 3 fall off to go into, auction, whatever, so
Right.
it's not worth replacing those
Okay. So we have 5 or 6 then.
currently.
Yeah,
Right now, there are, with the new one coming in, 5 of them will have the new updated versions.
so 5 with new, which means how many do we have with the old?
4.
So 4 with the old, and we're gonna replace 3 of them, and by the time we get to the 4th month, we would have retired that vehicle.
Actually, there's 5 and then 2 is gonna fall off. I'm not overly concerned about a cruiser radio as I am about portables, because those are just detail cars. So it's not like they're gonna be patrolling with those cars. Okay. For safety deter or safety awareness on road jobs.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So at most 3 portables is what we're talking about.
3 mobiles. Mobiles is.
Mobiles, yes, sorry, mobiles,
Yes.
yes, okay. So now I'm gonna change my tact here and say, let's keep them separate. This is, sorry, see. Because this one's gonna be a one and done program. This is gonna be continuous until we get to.
So I did it.
3 per year. For 3 years is 9 units. How many units do we need?
For portables?
Yeah, for portables. I mean, is it, so, and tell me about the usage of them. How many, like, I would assume that you would have one all the time.
Oh,
Okay. So how many other, how many other officers would have theirs all the time?
yeah. So right now, portable wise, the entire department is outfitted with the new technology, with the exception of 5. And they're all special officers. They do details only. So they can communicate. They just don't have the technology that the other ones do for the eventual, transition to a digital network.
Okay, so these 5 that are detail only. Is the expectation that they go to the station, check in, grab a portable, go to the site?
No, they'll be issued, once we're able to procure the new technology, the new portables, they'll be issued
a portable for themselves. Right now, they don't come in to get anything because we have older units that we're giving them that are assigned to them. But this is all about the initiative to just gradually integrate to a point where the state's gonna, I'm not gonna say force, but they're gonna heavily encourage us to switch to digital for a lot of reasons. I don't think it's gonna happen for about 3 to 5 years, but I want to make sure that this isn't just a big boom.
Yeah.
Year 5,
Appreciate that.
you know what I mean?
Appreciate that.
So,
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we are covering, we're getting the right number of units at the right time. And then also for the right price, right? So, you know, again, if you're gonna tell me you need a total of 9 units, right? Over 3 years. You need a total of 9 units. And if we bought all 9 units today, they'd be at a cost of $750 per unit. I'm just throwing out numbers, obviously. But if we buy them only at 3 per year and they're gonna cost us $1,200 each, you know, are we better off buying 9 right now? And I'm assuming you've done the due diligence here, which is why you presented this plan.
yeah, just for the P, so if I say P25, it's digital capability. Just for that license runs anywhere from $700 to $800 just for the license to be the FCC to accept you onto the digital network. Then you have the cost of the unit. So the unit right now is 2,400, 2,200. The whole thing comes out to about 3,200 to 3,300 per unit. That includes the actual radio, mic, and the license.
Okay.
So they're not cheap.
Okay.
That's why I'm nervous about that.
And there's no price break for us.
That's state bid. That's state contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't get any volume discounts, though, is what I'm really.
So, you know, that's a good question, Rob. So we have a very good relationship with our current vendor and they do work with us. And they really have in the past. So I want to say that the price that I'm giving you is pretty close to where we'd be. It might be a little bit under. But I know departments that are paying over 4,000.
Okay.
So.
Fair enough. Other questions, Paul? You got anything on these 2 requests?
No, nothing in particular. Actually, you know, one, is my police scanner still gonna work? Because I get bored while I'm doing my dishes.
Yes, it will. So I know that there's been some controversy in a neighboring community about shutting out the public to hearing their transmissions. So there's 2 ways that you can actually do digital. You can encrypt it or you can leave it unencrypted. And there would be no intention to encrypt it. It would be open. It'd just be a very different kind of transmission. It sounds different. It almost sounds muted, but it's incredibly clear.
Gotcha. Okay. And then if, God forbid, there was ever some situation where you needed, you know, the tactical advantage for some reason to encrypt your communications, that you'd have the capability to do that if there was a pressing need to.
We may or may not have that now already.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right. And then just one administrative. It says 3-year program, but at the top you have fiscal years 24 through 27, which is 4 years.
I'm sorry, and that's 26.
Okay, I just wanted to be
Yep.
really clear on that.
So that'll actually be on another one as well. Thank you for that.
Yeah, on the for the cruisers.
So 24 to 26, yes.
Yeah, okay.
No, I did pick that in the spreadsheet. I'm used to the chief being a little off the numbers, so
I'm actually surprised you didn't bring that up to me earlier.
I wanted to have that.
Yeah.
Oh, you wanted to come out here. Oh, I see. What a guy,
right?
What a guy.
Okay. So questions on this. So 10,000 is this, so is the portables then done other than replacements at that point? It would just be, and when I say replacements, I mean broken, like damage, that kind of thing. For the port, so you have a 3-year, buying 3, so we're gonna be buying 9 new ones. Is that program then done after 3 years, and in the future, it's just replacing a damaged one kind of thing?
Yes,
And
and
a one-off type thing?
yeah, correct.
Okay.
And we spec out It's a military grade radio.
Yeah.
And if it's taken care of and we refresh batteries and change batteries, I mean, the expectation is to get 15 years out of them.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Think ahead to the question we've been asking, huh? It's not that bad.
No, good learning.
Well, Mike just likes to chop me down.
All right.
I like to make you feel happy.
So let's go ahead and score, and what I'd like to do, since these are both very similar. We can score them. I think we keep them, now I might lose my mind if they're both.
I don't know, yeah.
I'm just doing that for Serena's.
Oh, is that what it is?
For ease of it, do you want to incorporate and make it 13 a year for
That,
the upgrade initiative?
yeah, I think what we want to do is get this as one warrant article.
Agree, yeah.
Because I certainly wouldn't want to see one get approved and one not,
Mhm.
okay, which is always a possibility.
Sure, yeah.
Right? So I think we want to join these two together.
Sure.
Okay, so if we do join these two together, we're looking at $13,000 a year for 3 years. Okay. Notes here. All right. So.
Yeah, the analog going away, do we know for sure?
You're never going to get a straight answer from the state. But right now on analog, we operate on what's called the T-band. So all public safety operates within a range that's, let's say this. The FCC in their infinite wisdom, probably about 15 years ago, recognized that we've blocked out this area of our availability. And we're only using about this for public safety. So what do? They start selling licenses and frequencies to businesses. Now, all of a sudden, there is nothing. So we're having a hell of a time right now trying to get 2 new frequencies because ours have been compromised. They don't have them. So they're going through their audits to see, if Rendon Enterprises still uses these 2 frequencies, okay, these become available. So on that T-band, it's completely being used. That's analog. So if you go to digital, it's infinite possibilities of frequencies.
Okay.
So that's kind of where they're nudging us, but you'll never get a definitive on when that's going to happen. So right now, I can tell you, there's nothing left in T-band in our area.
Yeah, I'm just throwing this out there.
Yeah.
This is checking to see if my spaghetti is cooked. Do we ask for 13,000 and put this on a warrant for 3 consecutive years, or do we just ask for 40K up front? And the chief expends based on his plan, because we know that the money is good for 3 years for him to use for up to 3 years.
Is it? I don't disagree with the question, but should we see how we're gonna land in the early fall with free cash?
Are you then suggesting that we hold this particular article until special?
Yeah, generally speaking, we don't. Once we rank them, like all of these priorities, I really think. Just my opinion, we should really discuss what we, based on the rankings, what articles we should try to move forward for at the annual, and then because we're dealing with, we're planning for 24, we'll have another crack at all these projects going into special stuff.
Yes.
That's just my thinking.
Yeah, no, I believe that's what we did last year as well.
So then would it make sense to put it together for the 40? If we're gonna look at it in the fall, where we have the numbers. I don't know.
I just know based on our year-to-date trends that. That we predicted that free cash is gonna get significantly tighter.
Right.
And yeah, like that, that $30,000-ish. That's a big delta with, like a way more limited free cash.
Okay. Well, I think regardless of the request, whether it's 13 per year for 3 or for 40, so I built in an extra $1,000 contingency.
Yeah.
For increasing costs.
Uh-huh.
As a one-time vote, we can go ahead and do the rankings.
Yeah.
All right. So priority classification. Either maintenance or improve efficiency is where I see it as.
I'd say maintenance right now.
Okay. I'll chime in where you disagree.
Okay, fair enough. No, that maintenance makes sense to me.
Okay, priority ranking, very high. I think it's high.
Hi.
Agreed.
Useful life. We heard that was 15 years or so, operating and maintenance costs I think are unchanged. Let's see, some type of special battery pack, which I.
No, the chargers that we buy, they actually refresh the battery as well, so.
Sweet. Okay, and then effect on town's revenue, unchanged. Right?
Yeah.
All right. Availability of funding, Steve's really good about pursuing grants, I know, so.
Yeah, and like I stated in there, I'll look for any interoperability grants that are out there. The only ones that come out typically are through DOJ, and because we just did a complete overhaul of our network, we may not be eligible, but I'll check it anyway.
All right. And would address significant public safety concern.
Would they?
Not right now, but eventually, yeah.
This is, I don't know, like we rank this up
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Is it no right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so no. Okay. All right, next one would be with the irrigation system. It's like 51 liter. This is the site location of
For the site. Fortunate enough that Superintendent Perry actually has a program to treat the area. Without water, it's almost futile. And I think it says a lot for presentation. It says a lot for money that the townspeople voted on to build the facility and to not maintain it. Or there's an opportunity to maintain it better for settings. For I think a relatively inexpensive cost, we can do that. Now, one of the questions that came up was, is this going to affect our water bill? I don't see that it will, and I'll tell you why. Right now, when water department does testing, because of where we are in the line of their run, they actually do have to let some water run for a significant amount of time to get a good reading. We just don't use enough water. That's basically what it comes down to. We're not using enough. So they have to do what they have to do to let it run to get an accurate test. So all that's going to do is supplement the water running outside to the water going onto the grass. So I don't see a significant change at all. as far as the water bill.
And when that happens, basically the water is into the parking lot, just because, right?
It does, yeah, and it's, you know, it's unfortunate, but I understand it's a business too. They have to make sure that they get accurate readings. So, but yeah, it just goes right down the drain, literally.
Have we looked at drought resistant plants, things of that nature? Yes,
Yeah, so the plantings that are around the perimeter of the building, they're pretty hardy. So you have a lot of ornamental grasses and rhododendrons. They're drought resistant. But the grass looks terrible. It's when grass starts feeling the effects of drought, starts clumping up. So you have all these clumps and bare and it, you know, just, this is aesthetics. There's no question. This is aesthetics. This is for the townspeople to drive by and say, okay, I know why my taxes are up. This looks good. Right now, if you walk up that path or the walkway into the building in August and September, I mean, if you walk down it with your bare feet, it's gonna crunch,
Yeah.
you know?
any other questions on this?
No.
All right, let's go ahead and rank, priority classification.
Be honest. Okay.
Maintenance, I think it's my shoulder.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay. Priority ranking. I'll throw it out there. My initial feeling is this is low.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Useful life. 10 to 19 is.
For the system,
Sounds reasonable.
yeah, I mean, really, the failures that you're gonna see are heads,
Right.
maybe an occasional zone solenoid, but yeah. Nothing crazy. Sure, Michael, his experience can help us if needed.
Well, I think you need to actually, so I think in. This is one of those things like, does this fall under the police budget? Or does it fall under the building's maintenance budget? Okay, once this gets installed. If you ask me, it's buildings maintenance all day long. So, just stick it to Jen. It's one thing, no. But yeah, I mean. I'm actually surprised that this isn't more of a joint request here. By both of you, that's all. Okay, so then we get to the effect on operating and maintenance costs. I think we heard the chief basically say it's gonna remain unchanged, right? And then the effect on the town's revenues, there's no effect, right? And then funding. I think
No.
there's no alternate source, so I think the answer is no there. And then public safety concern, no. Well, somebody could have their feet on the plate.
That does correct.
All right, and then the last one is for firearms. We got really precise on here, $16,769.80. Can't remember the last time I saw one so precise. So this is a scheduled replacement. I guess my only question is first time I've actually seen a firearm request. It's always, I guess, been a part of the operating budget. Again, this goes back to any of the programs we're talking about, to me, firearms is something that you're always going to need, similar to the cruisers, right? How do we get this onto a plan so that we're not going to be hit with this expense every 5 years? How do we, start to minimize the costs of this kind of thing? And then I'd also be So obviously then what this is police department issues firearms, just like they do radios. It's checked out, it's your personal weapon until such time you leave the force. Or it gets replaced, right? Kind of thing. So doesn't make sense to put this into a program, or is this in every 3 years, I believe is what you said, 3 years. So, I guess what I'm getting at is like, can we get an overall equipment replacement program in place that says basically we're doing firearms this year, and you may get even more a better breakdown, which might be small firearms, and then all other firearms would be next year. The year after that might be tasers, the year after, so that we get into this cycle of, we know these needed to be replaced so that we can start spreading those costs out. And so I'm very interested in seeing that type of an approach. I understand this request, we're coming up on 5 years, or we've already passed 5 years probably for some of these firearms.
Yeah.
Is it, and this is every single officer or?
Yeah, so what I just found out actually, when I did this without having the input from one of our firearms guys, we're actually on year 8 of some of the firearms that we have, it's all generation. And these guys have to put at least 1,000 rounds through it per year. Now, most firearms can handle it, there's no question. But these are in and out of cruisers all day. They're in and out of holsters. They get dinged up, they get used. So I think realistically, this can be spread out. So I thought it was a 3-year, it's actually a 5.
Okay.
It's a 5-year replacement is what they recommend. And like I said, for 90% of our firearms, we're on year 8. What happens is when you go to trade them in, obviously the newer or the generation of the firearm gives you more of a value. So if we wait long, like we did now, we're not getting much on a trade.
Right.
So even though we're subject to discounted pricing as a law enforcement agency, it is significant when you can trade in, when say a new one costs $700 and you can trade a newer generation in for $450, that's a very negligible cost to upgrade. Right now, they're offering, I just got the new one. They're offering, I don't care, I think it's $280, $290 for ours because they're older. And that is included in the price. That number that you see there should go down a little bit because they just redid their pricing. It's very, very competitive right now with technology, with 2 companies that are trying to get the most law enforcement accounts that they can. So I think if we were able to have a baseline and start and then get on a 5-year replacement, it'd be a lot easier to project out. Right now, that I know of, we have 3 different generation firearms in the department that our armorers are responsible for. So it's very similar technology, it's very similar parts, but it's 3 different generations, and a generation of a firearm could be, 3 to 5 years of just in that, so.
And so we're talking handhelds here primarily, right?
These are patrol weapons.
Control weapon. Do we maintain a quote unquote armory of?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And does this include the replacement of anything that's aged out there? Or not like going into call it your gun cabinet.
Yeah.
And said, oh, we've got half a dozen pistols here. And 4 of them need to be replaced, and this 5th one is still good for another 3 years. That kind of thing. So I want to make sure that this number includes replacing those.
Oh, yeah, this would include replacing any pistol, any handgun that we currently have in inventory.
Okay.
In the department. So I know there's Gen 4s, Gen 5s. And there's two different models of Gen 4s plus the Gen 5s. So yes, it does that exact thing.
Okay.
It completely just swaps everything out so that there's a baseline of what everybody's using, because people are using different equipment.
Right.
Now, in particular too, with this, I know sometimes it's hard to read writing. Actually, not probably for anybody in here, but these kids forget it. The training, what the models are telling us is to go back to a 9mm. 9mm was big in the 80s and the early 90s, and there were transitions to the 40 cal and the 45 cal. The model is saying go back to the 9. It's an easier shot. It's not as much recoil. The optics, they're saying, are incredible because a lot of the younger officers, they grew up playing what? First shooter games. So that reticle in their head is already wired to use that sight reticle. It's actually interesting. I have a presentation that is prepared for the town if they need it through 2 of our firearms guys, but it's pretty nuts how well a lot of these younger officers shoot because of that reticle. So the companies are making it, that's what they're marketing now. It's a whole package. It's the firearm, it's the reticle, and it's there's a light that mounts underneath. With that, obviously there's a holster cost in ammo, but ammo should be a little bit less.
Yeah,
It's a yearly standpoint, if you can get it.
right. So this, the way I read this request, though, ammo isn't included in this.
That I carry in a separate line.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
okay. Yeah.
All right. Wanted to
And-
make sure.
And Chief, as I understand it, 9mm is quite a bit less expensive than 40 S&W. Is that right?
It is, and even though we're subject to state contract pricing, there is a difference in the case volume that we would need to buy, yes.
Yeah, if possible, I would love a copy of that presentation if possible.
Yeah, they're gonna be here tomorrow night at the meeting if I can't make it. Talking about they're gonna the range, and they'll have that with them tomorrow if needed. You want to talk about it?
Chief, and you mentioned you included that overview in your cursive writing.
I'm sorry.
I know that you're talking about how to read cursive. I was just trying to decipher it, but I don't see anything in there.
About what?
Everything you just mentioned about the 9mm to the 40 caliber.
Impact on future operating budget, ammo per usual, it looks like is.
Yeah, so my apologies on actually spelling it out, but sentence 2 says this new platform is being recommended nationwide.
Okay.
So I can edit that and get that to you. It's new 9mm. Or if you just want to make an edit to your.
Yeah, I'll do that. That's easy. Thank you.
Just put 9mm in between the new and the platform.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief?
Nope.
All right, let's go through the ranking then. It's a priority classification. Yeah, maintenance, right? Priority ranking.
The fact that we're on year 8.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it's.
Yeah,
top.
absolutely. And they're putting a minimum of 1,000 rounds a year through those. Then I mean, I'm willing to bet some of those 7 and 8-year-old guns are pretty beat up at this point.
Yeah. So high,
Right.
Mhm.
projected expected useful life is just 5 to 9 years, right? Effect on operating and maintenance costs, relatively unchanged, right? And then effect on town revenue, unchanged. And then alternative funding sources, nothing available right now. And then public safety concern. And yeah,
I
I kind of want to say yes. for that.
Yeah, I think it's wise is like if we don't have offices with.
Well, I'm also of the opinion though that it's for officer safety as well. I don't want,
Yeah.
you know, I don't want a 7 or 8 year old gun that's
Agreed,
out
yeah.
of program.
Yeah, yeah.
So to speak, to have an issue and.
Oh, yeah.
Backfire.
Possible jam or,
Or,
yeah, all
or
kinds of things.
or jam it in the event of an incident
Yep.
and.
Mhm.
You know, that officer, you know, gets shot or potentially uses life. So I think, yeah, it is a public safety.
You know, I agree. That's what I was saying. I mean,
One of the things that's incorporated into some of the policies that we have is that there's only X amount of approved firearms that can be used. Because if you're going out there on a detail and you have a 9mm, God forbid something happens, the patrol's responding with all 40 and you need a mag, you're out of luck. So everybody, there's only 3 certified handguns that you can use right now. So, and that's all for officer safety.
Thank you. Right. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Ready, sir? I know we tried to keep this to 90 minutes, but.
All right, as long as good work is getting done, Rob, right? Productive.
Yeah.
How's
But
it?
now I'm just taking my 11 o'clock on my phone as opposed to a computer. That's all. That's not a big deal. Because we're gonna finish Tom's in 20 minutes because he's on the ball.
yes, I sent out like an updated budget.
Digitally.
Yeah.
Tom had no new requests, right? Everything's in the packet from our last meeting, right? Yes. Okay. So let's just go in order. So we have our Main Street drainage upgrades. Request for 145. 631.60.
So so just on that, when that was submitted, like initially, that really represented a placeholder. That Tom Serino and I met back to the end of last week to flesh out exactly what the placeholder was for drainage improvements. Like as it relates to how we would fund the whole project, because one thing does relate to the other. And we wanted to make sure we were looking at all the crew costs that we can expect to carry out the project. So that the updated numbers in the capital plan, but also in the spreadsheet. Like a really an update to the original 145-ish $1,000 we initially were looking at.
So what's the amount we're looking for now then?
Well, the drainage cost, increased to 250. And we have a total project budget for Main Street of $2.1 million right now projected.
That drainage reflects the easement. We put that. It must be in the easements. That must be part of it.
We did a tiny bit of work in the 250.
Gotcha. I don't remember this.
So we're now saying that this 145 becomes the 250?
Yes.
With another expected costs of. $1,063,000. Change.
No, 1.75.
Sorry,
remaining. Oh, no,
Oh, I'm looking at your balance the fund here. Oh, no, so wait, hold on,
oh, yeah.
I gotta figure this out. So we're using, wait. The available revenues on the far right,
Yeah,
that's what we're planning on using. Chapter 90 money, how much we're planning on using
yes,
to offset the 2.1 million total.
yes,
Okay, leaving us with 1.3 to fund.
yes.
So if we spend 250 this year just on this,
We have a balance to fund in year 2 and 3, that would actually be higher than the 506 number.
right? But is that drainage number? Yeah, so why do we have an FY 23 number of 300,000? That's this year, right?
Yes.
So
So
that's what, where do you, that's already in the budget?
no, that is, so all of our available free cash allotment that we have going into annual. We have, because of the pavement management plan, we put a general placeholder toward roadway improvement of $300,000. So that would fully utilize that to get us started and the funding hyper local contribution.
But that's FY 24 though, right? Because we haven't funded that 300,000.
Like if we do it at. I mean, it's really all semantics, but if we do it in June. Oh, we're still doing it in FY 23. So this would be year 1. FY 24 would be year 2. So we would very quickly go into the second year of funding the obligation.
The drainage needs to happen this calendar year. You have just right around the 140 in the chapter 90 now, so we could stop buying materials. Some of that is lead time we have to worry about, and then we're doing the work. Still, we have 3 easements we're paying. But the drainage needs to happen this calendar year before sidewalks are considered.
I'm anybody else is confused as I am?
So these are proposals, these would work. I don't know what else you guys are working with. This should work with the pavement management plan, because that still leaves us right around 100 grand each year.
But so I don't know, like what is the pavement management plan for FY 23? And has that been funded? I don't think it has, right?
No, it hasn't.
So are we proposing then? Is there a special between now and annual?
We can just run it, so typically you like run the special for the current fiscal year before.
Right.
They have been special.
Right.
Yeah.
I get that. But if our annual isn't until first week in June,
Yes,
that leaves Tom with 4 weeks to spend this stuff.
well, and then it can carry for 3 years at the same time.
Yeah.
So the money will be available in FY 23 for.
Yes.
And we're, okay,
Yeah.
okay, and so what we're saying is fund the pavement management plan with 300,000.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
Tom's gonna use 250 of it right away for the east drainage? For the drainage improvement?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And the other 50,000 is gonna be used for some of these other requests?
No, like it would actually go, like it would be, so like we'd be like committing that they'll sell 50,000 towards,
The true.
yeah, like the whole. Ask up the funds, so we're spreading out the cost relatively evenly, so like we don't. See like the peaks and valleys over the next 3 years. So yes, so like we're making that and phasing in. Like in a way that wouldn't cloud out our ability to fund other types of things we need to fund.
We're gonna have to revisit the pavement management plan to make this work also. And this is also just from Elm Street to Williams. We'll still have a section of Main Street to be considered in the near future along with that.
So help me understand. Drainage improvements FY 23, 250,000. Will they be offset by the 140,000 chapter 90 money?
Those revenues represent all of our available revenues to do the whole project. And so those are our total revenues to do the whole project. And once you aggregate those revenues over the 3 years, we'll have the remaining balance to fund of $1.3 million. And
So I don't think we're answering his questions. So our anticipated allocation per year for chapter 90 is roughly around 333,000.
303,000.
That might get a bump once in a while, like grant money or whatever. This is what we're proposing to put towards Main Street, what you're looking at.
Okay.
And that leaves us to entertain treatments on with the pavement management, lower cost treatments that go farther. That's what you're not seeing.
And now I know, on Main Street that there was a sewer, a storm drain that wasn't functioning at one point, actually right next to my house on Main Street. Will the drainage improvements address that former sewer drain that is no longer functional?
Depending on the grade of the new road, yes.
Got it.
There
Okay.
might be enough, there might be enough grade that it makes it all the way to the river without the need of the structure.
Got it. Okay.
So out of that chapter 90 each year, whatever's left over from what you're gonna use, is that enough to do other things? Because
It's-
wouldn't you like to have the whole thing do
It's not,
regular projects?
it's not adequate, but we're gonna make it work. We don't have much of a choice. So there's some other treatments we need to look at. So the fog seals go out, they go out farther. They give you 5 to 8 years longevity in the roads on the end of useful life. Chip seals are the next best choice because they get a good wearing surface. And they can go pretty far, a lot farther than asphalt. Asphalt doesn't go too hard at all. So it's important to use these preservative type treatments. And that's usually right around 100. Per year for the West roads.
Would it be better to use the whole chapter 90 on your project to do it right good the first time instead of using some of it for this project? I guess what I'm getting at is why don't we just bond them? Here we go. Do we want to start? Bonding things and just get it done or?
Right, that's why on my form I put TBD to be determined for
Yeah.
funding. That's you guys figure it out. And so
Yeah.
We
we have
don't
that.
have room in the levy either to bond under the general operating budget either.
this could work. But
Yeah, debt
this is not gonna work unless you guys say so. I mean, you guys gotta
The cash to-
decide, you know what else is going on in town.
Yeah, and we don't, to your point, Brenda, we don't have we handle everything in the world within our existing tax levy. Actually, I would say we handle way more than any other community in the world.
And that's not always good.
No, like under our tax levy, we fund capital assessments, we fund everything under our levy. The issue is because we've never had a debt service within the levy, based on the levy pressures we're facing now, to add it in now based on the timing. Even though exactly what you're mentioning is really the best practice, we just financially don't have the ability to do it.
So, Mr. Chairman, you have a hard line, like 5 more minutes? Do we need to?
No, I don't.
Entertain it because there's more here to it.
No. Just send a note.
I do have another appointment.
We. On that, because we do have. more work to do. I'm just asking, do we take a pause and we can be next week for the same purpose? I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, this is a lot to digest. and
Yeah.
absorb.
Yeah, we left the,
Yeah. Because, yeah, I mean, and I think honestly. We don't have a big whiteboard in here, huh? Do we?
No,
Bring one.
Can we bring one in?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think this, we'd be
Map it
better
out.
sort of laying this
Yep.
all out.
Yep.
On the board, because there's so many requests.
Oh, yeah.
Here. And I also, you know, and I know there's a single request in here for stormwater as well that we need to address.
Yes.
But I think that's best suited to be addressed with all our highway projects as well.
Yes.
I think that's, you know, you're the resident expert, so.
did you, I have some challenges. We got to put the drainage in this year.
Yeah.
Probably got to be us because you don't want.
And I think that's what we do is we start, so we start, we look at these. And one of the things we start doing is we start, and you'll see by just the way that I, the nature of how I
Correct.
do things at my job and my real job. I actually don't even, we actually don't even really need a whiteboard. I'm good. I bring in colored stickies. And we take the stickies and we say, okay, of these, what's mandatory? They go on, let's say, a red one. Those go up. We know those are mandatory. You know, we got to get these things done. Okay. Everything else gets some other color. And then, but then those colors are also decided upon based upon, you know, we could use a price range. You know, anything under 100,000 is going to get this color, that kind of thing. And we can visually then start seeing and mapping things out when things can get done, and then we can start running some numbers in terms of what areas will look like in the near future for all of these projects.
My challenge, we got to get the drainage in.
Yeah,
Obviously, we got to figure out the funding. Hang on a second, please.
yeah,
So this is a fairly good job for whatever else we're doing in town too for us. But the biggest challenge is we need to order the material, and there might be lead time I'm not aware of.
so my question for you though is you tagged 140,000 of chapter 90 money. You don't need us to approve that.
Correct.
The ordinance, and you can spot, and I don't know how much your materials are gonna run yet. I'm assuming it's more than the 140.
But because it's over $5,000, that's where you guys come in.
No, but this is we've never, as a capital outlay committee, directed you on how to use your chapter 90 money. And that is not our intent at all. This is above and beyond the chapter 90 money. And that's what I'm trying to understand here is just like we don't get to tell the school district how to spend their chapter 70 money, right?
Right.
So, and that is beyond, and if you go look at the bylaw says nothing about the fact that we will dictate how any department uses their state allotted funds. It is not in there because that's not our aim is not to be this overarching committee that is going to determine how you see best fit to use the funds available to you. This is exactly what I expect to see from you is the total cost is $250,000 for drainage. I'm planning on using $140,000 of my chapter 90 money. That leaves $110,000 that I need help figuring out from you guys, this committee, how to fund this. That's how I see this working. This is not us telling you how to use your chapter 90 money and never want to do that. I don't, it goes back to what I said earlier, Tom. You're the professional here. This is your job. This is what you were brought in to do. And we're just here more so as an advisory type capacity.
So, but isn't that exactly what we're doing, like together with Tom, we so that we came outlining the available revenues that Tom has at his like in his resources. Like the 140 this year, plus 203 of the next 2-year allotment of the 3 other 3. Plus, this plan relies on from our existing $1.1 million, of which about 400,000 will be for sewer. So we're also including an APA request in here because for the drainage is water is considered under APA rules, water infrastructure. So we do have the ability to apply for that 250 in drainage work through APA. So those are the internal resources that we and Tom still already have towards making the total project budget of $2.1 million work. So really, what we're coming before capital outlay to basically say, what the heck?
I have no idea.
Hold on. What the freak?
So it sounds like we're gonna regroup.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So, but I mean, like we have a remaining balance to fund based with those resources applied of 1.1 million, I mean 1.3 million. So that is what we really need to decide how we're gonna live to make this project work.
Before I do my part of the chapter 90, because if it's not gonna work, it makes sense.
No, to make this whole project work,
Right.
because, I mean, you don't have that whole chapter 90 funding upfront anyways.
yeah, that's his plain usage though. I mean, Tom expects that he's gonna have to pay a lot.
Yep.
Every year. I mean, that's plain usage. And
Yeah,
I know it's there's no guarantees ever, but. All right, so I think we should reconvene. We should take and look at this holistically. If we start looking at things on a project by project basis, and I also want to understand, better how the pavement management plan, if we fund that, then do some of these requests that are in here fall under, is a plan that they fall underneath that?
Right.
So that's, that's kind of the, and that's where I
They
think,
line up.
yeah, if we can just kind of line things out and get it figured out, we'll be in a better spot. And Tom, I actually, I wouldn't mind sitting down with you for an hour just to
An hour. Oh, I'm really gonna get it.
have a conversation so that I can better understand
Yeah.
it, so that when
you present it.
so when I present it here and we start getting into the details, that I'll be a little bit better
Mhm.
organized just to start with. That's all.
Just let me know.
Where do you want to go to lunch? Not today.
Not today, he's got a meeting.
Not today. So also on the agenda, and I know is, let's go ahead and schedule our next meeting,
Mhm.
if we can. Calendar,
Thanks for being here for 2 hours and then we're telling you to come back.
Yeah.
let's see.
So Mike and Serena, you still want me to hold off on ordering some materials?
we need to see how we're preparing those materials too.
We
can start the procurement.
Time, right?
Yeah,
We know it where.
yeah, no, we need to. Talk about if you can come up with a list, Tom, of exactly what we need to procure, so we can have that in a procurement scope. That we can incorporate into our existing procurement template, having the whole quantities listed, the in the materials listed.
Yeah, I have that. You want, I'm assuming you want an email.
Yeah, please.
What is Monday? Monday? What is? I'm like.
The 11th.
Yeah, how does Monday at the 10th at 3 o'clock work for everyone? Or later? Before?
I'm out depending on the election.
Oh.
That works for me. If I am able to continue to serve, that works for me.
Monday, okay.
Yeah, 3.
I'm not gonna be able to do that because I have one of my employees is out all week on leave and I've got payroll on Monday in the afternoon, so I'm not gonna be available. Well, but I can't, I won't reliably be available. Sometimes it really depends on what time we get the payroll, if there's any issues. Sometimes it's done by 1 o'clock, but other times 3 o'clock is kind of right in the thick of it.
Do we want to do 4?
It's fine.
Are you not available the Tuesday?
Tuesday,
Yeah, I've got both employees out on Tuesday. I'm gonna be by myself the whole day.
so it's something Tuesday.
4 o'clock on Monday. Great.
I should be able to make 3 work because I'll just zoom in from my office if we're not done with payroll by then.
Why don't we cut it in half and just do 3:30?
Sure.
Okay,
Okay.
3:30 on Monday, on the 10th. Okay. And. Okay, so we'll table the approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Guys have it. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Paul. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you all.
See ya.